That little blue tag, you see it on your new fridge, maybe your TV, definitely your air conditioner. That's the Energy Star label. It's so common, it's practically invisible, yet it signifies something pretty significant.
It really has become a silent workhorse, hasn't it? A widely recognized marker of efficiency that most people, trust implicitly. It's easy to overlook just how impactful it's been.
Exactly. And that's what we're digging into today on the Meteorology Matters podcast. We're looking at how events in Washington can ripple out and affect our everyday lives. And, well, the future of this unassuming label is a prime example.
Absolutely. The sheer scale of the Energy Star program's success is genuinely impressive. I mean, since 1992, it's estimated that American families have collectively saved around $500 billion on their energy bills.
Oh, $500 billion.
Yeah. Think about that, a $500 billion impact on household finances. It's a powerful illustration of how collective, informed consumer choices, guided by just a simple label, can generate, well, macroeconomic level impacts.
And it's not just about keeping more money in our pockets, is it? The environmental benefits are equally astounding.
Oh, definitely. We're talking about roughly 4 billion metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions that haven't been released, thanks in part to Energy Star.
4 billion tons. It really makes you realize the cumulative effect of choosing more efficient products over decades.
It truly does. It underscores the power of a well-designed voluntary program in driving both economic and environmental progress.
But here's where the picture gets a little cloudy. The Trump administration has signaled intentions to dismantle the NOAA offices responsible for overseeing the Energy Star program.
Right. This is part of a broader shakeup with the stated aim of powering the Great American Comeback.
And this represents a notable shift, doesn't it? Because historically, Energy Star has enjoyed quite broad support across the political spectrum even.
It really has. For a long time, it wasn't really viewed through a partisan lens. It was just seen as, common sense.
Not at all. But lately, the winds seem to be changing. Okay, so for anyone less familiar, what exactly is Energy Star and what made it such a hit with both shoppers and manufacturers?
Okay, simply put, Energy Star is a voluntary initiative. It identifies and labels products, appliances, electronics, building materials that meet specific energy efficiency benchmarks set by the government.
That blue logo we all know.
Exactly. You'll find that blue logo on everything from your washing machine to light bulbs. And this independent verification is crucial because it prevents manufacturers from simply claiming efficiency without, rigorous proof. It ensures the label stays meaningful.
And that label has become a real shortcut for consumers, hasn't it? I recall reading a comparison that likened its recognition to Santa Claus.
Yeah, I saw that too. It sounds a bit exaggerated maybe, but it highlights how instantly recognizable and, importantly, trusted it is.
So people see it and just know.
Pretty much. When people see that blue star, they immediately understand that the product consumes less energy than comparable models. And it's not just a marginal improvement. Energy Star certified items typically exceed the minimum federal efficiency standards by a considerable margin, anywhere from, say, 10 to 75%.
That's a substantial difference. So it's well beyond just meeting the basic requirements.
Precisely. And underpinning that trust is a system of independent third-party testing.
Okay.
This ensures the integrity of the label and stops manufacturers from making unsubstantiated claims about their product's efficiency.
That makes perfect sense. And it's not just the label itself that provides an advantage, is it? I've often seen rebates and other incentives linked to Energy Star certified products.
That's a vital component of its success, yeah. Numerous states, local governments, and even utility companies offer rebates or other financial incentives when you purchase Energy Star qualified products.
So an immediate reward.
Exactly. It provides an immediate financial reward for consumers, further encouraging them to choose more efficient options, even if the upfront cost is slightly higher sometimes.
So it creates a positive cycle. Consumers save money on their energy bills over time. Sometimes they get a price break up front.
Right.
And manufacturers can showcase their more eco-conscious products.
Exactly. The program acts as a powerful market signal. It motivates manufacturers to innovate and enhance the energy efficiency of their products to earn that sought-after label. They know it appeals to an increasing number of energy-aware consumers who might be willing to invest a bit more initially for those long-term savings.
And it seems to have really taken hold. I remember seeing some impressive statistics about Energy Star's dominance in certain product categories.
Yes, in several sectors, it has become the de facto standard. For example, an overwhelming majority of dishwashers sold in the United States, something like 96%, now carry the Energy Star label.
96%. Wow.
Yeah. And laptop computers also have a very high adoption rate, at about 71%. This really illustrates the program's profound influence on both what consumers buy and what manufacturers produce.
Okay, so we understand the value and success of Energy Star. It's clearly been beneficial. Now, let's consider the potential fallout. What are the likely consequences if this program were to be dismantled?
Well, the most immediate consequence would be the disappearance of that reliable and easily understood source of information for consumers. That blue label acts as a crucial shortcut when people are shopping for new appliances.
Right. Instead of just spotting the blue star and knowing it's an energy smart choice, people would have to, what, pore over complicated technical specifications, read the fine print.
Precisely. Consumers would likely have to invest significantly more time and effort in researching the energy efficiency of different appliances. They'd be forced to rely on less user-friendly sources like obscure industry databases or the dense technical details in manufacturer manuals.
Which can be really confusing.
Absolutely. And difficult to compare directly. Imagine trying to compare the energy use figures, often presented differently, on 10 different refrigerators. It's not an easy task for most people.
Yeah, definitely not. And we mentioned the financial incentives earlier. Those could also disappear if the Energy Star certification is no longer recognized, right?
That's a very real concern. Many of those federal and local rebates are specifically linked to Energy Star certification. If the program is scrapped, those valuable cost-saving opportunities for consumers could vanish along with it.
Hmm. I also came across a mention of a potential nightmare scenario involving state regulations. What's the concern there?
Right, that was Francis Dietz from the Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute, AHRI. He voiced concerns about this.
Without a consistent national benchmark like Energy Star, we could end up with a fragmented system. A patchwork quilt, really.
A patchwork, yeah, of differing energy efficiency regulations from one state to another. Imagine a company that manufactures washing machines. If California has one rule, Texas another, New York a third, they might have to produce dozens of different models.
Which increases costs and complexity for everyone, I imagine.
Exactly. It would create a logistical headache for both consumers trying to figure things out and businesses operating across state lines.
That sounds incredibly complicated. So what about alternatives? Could the appliance industry simply create its own efficiency labels?
It's a possibility that has been discussed, yeah. Some industry associations might attempt to establish their own certification programs. However, there's a potential credibility issue there.
Credibility? How so?
Well, as Stephen Nadel from ACEEE pointed out, a major advantage of a government-backed program like Energy Star is its perceived objectivity. Consumers tend to trust the government, or at least a government agency setting standards, as a more unbiased source compared to initiatives run by industry groups themselves.
Right, there might be a suspicion, whether it's justified or not.
Exactly. That an industry-led label could be less rigorous, maybe more self-serving, or influenced by the manufacturers it's supposed to be regulating.
That makes sense. There's a built-in level of trust when it's overseen by a government agency. Now, what's the Trump administration's justification for wanting to get rid of Energy Star in the first place? What's their argument?
Their stated rationale, as detailed in budget proposals and other documents, characterizes the program as an overreach of government authority.
Overreach, okay.
They argue it imposes unnecessary and radical climate change regulations on businesses and that it stifles economic growth. They essentially view it as an example of excessive government intervention in the marketplace.
So the argument is it's a burden on the economy holding businesses back.
That's the framing, yes.
Yeah.
Saying the government is too involved, making things too complicated for businesses who just want to grow and compete.
Okay, so that's one side. But what's the counter-argument from consumer and environmental advocates? They must see it differently.
Oh, strongly differently. They strongly disagree with that assessment. Organizations like Project Drawdown emphasize that energy independence actually depends on our ability to use energy efficiently. Undermining Energy Star, they contend, jeopardizes that goal and puts a strain on household budgets.
So efficiency is key to independence.
Right. And Sarah Gleeson from Consumer Reports highlighted that losing Energy Star will make it significantly harder for consumers to access reliable, trustworthy information about energy consumption. Without that easy guidepost, how do you make informed choices?
And what about the cost savings argument?
The EPA itself estimates that a typical home with Energy Star certified products can save around $450 per year on energy costs. So eliminating the program Advocates argue it could actually increase expenses for families, not reduce burdens.
So it's framed as beneficial for the economy by reducing regulations, but the counter is it could actually harm consumers financially and hinder energy independence.
That's the core tension, yes. And this move seems consistent with the Trump administration's wider agenda. Well, it aligns with a broader pattern of deregulation, prioritizing fossil fuel production, and rolling back various efficiency standards. We've seen similar actions in other areas like water conservation standards for showerheads, for instance. It seems to be part of a larger strategy.
And this isn't the first time the Trump administration has targeted Energy Star, is it? I feel like I remember this coming up before.
That's correct. A similar attempt was made during the previous Trump administration, which generated considerable opposition, bipartisan opposition, in fact.
Right.
Xavier Boatwright from the Sierra Club highlighted what he saw as an inconsistency back then, claiming an energy emergency, while simultaneously attacking programs designed to save energy through efficiency. His argument is that wasting energy through inefficient appliances ultimately benefits the fossil fuel industry.
It really feels like a step backwards to many people. And it's not just Energy Star facing these challenges, is it? There appears to be a more comprehensive effort to undermine energy efficiency initiatives across the board.
Unfortunately, that does seem to be the case. Beyond the potential demise of Energy Star, other critical energy efficiency programs are also being targeted in recent proposals.
Such as, what else is on the chopping block?
One significant example is the proposed elimination of the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, or LIHEAP.
LIHEAP. Okay, what does that do?
This program provides crucial financial assistance to vulnerable households, low-income families, seniors, people with disabilities, to help them manage their energy bills. It also helps with essential home energy repairs and weatherization upgrades to make homes more efficient.
So really vital support.
Absolutely vital. In 2023 alone, it served nearly 6 million households.
6 million. That's an enormous number of people who rely on that support, particularly during, extreme heat waves or cold snaps.
Precisely. And alarmingly, there were reports that the Department of Health and Human Services even dismissed the staff responsible for administering the LIHEAP program earlier this year. The president's budget proposal recommends completely shutting down this $4 billion program.
Which would hit the most vulnerable hardest?
Disproportionately, yes. Older adults, individuals with disabilities, families with young children. Advocates warn that abolishing LIHEAP could have severe, even life-threatening consequences for those who would be unable to afford to heat or cool their homes safely.
That's deeply troubling. And the efforts to roll back energy efficiency aren't limited to just these programs, are they? I've heard about attempts to weaken appliance efficiency standards as well.
Yes, that's another area. President Trump recently signed resolutions aimed at undoing a number of existing appliance efficiency standards set by the Department of Energy.
Undoing standards already in place.
Correct. And this is happening despite strong public support for these standards, including, interestingly, from a significant segment of Republican voters.
Really? Even Republicans support them?
Yes, public opinion polls have consistently shown that a large majority of Americans, across party lines, believe new home appliances should be required to meet minimum efficiency levels.
So there seems to be a disconnect between the administration's actions and the views of the public, even within their own political base on this issue. What about the government agencies tasked with developing and enforcing these efficiency rules? How are they affected?
There have been reports of significant disruptions in those areas as well. The Department of Energy, which relies heavily on consulting contracts to develop and enforce these complex appliance standards, well, reportedly that key contract was terminated.
Terminated. So who's doing the work?
Well, the current status remains somewhat unclear, but it obviously raises serious concerns about the future development and enforcement of these regulations. If the expertise isn't there or the mechanism is gone, what happens?
Right. And it's not just about appliances. Buildings are also major energy consumers. Is anything happening there?
They are huge energy consumers, and yes, the administration has also been targeting building energy efficiency standards. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, has delayed compliance deadlines for updated building energy efficiency codes.
Which codes?
These apply to certain new homes purchased with federally backed mortgages and new HUD-funded apartment buildings. These updated codes have the potential to save single-family homeowners an average of nearly $1,000 annually on their energy bills.
Almost $1,000 a year just from building codes?
Potentially, yes, on average for those new homes meeting the updated codes. Additionally, there's been a proposed delay in implementing efficiency standards for manufactured homes and a postponement of the deadline for reducing fossil fuel use in federal buildings themselves.
Wow, it really does seem like they're systematically dismantling energy efficiency efforts across multiple sectors: appliances, low-income support,
Yep.
building codes, federal buildings.
It appears to be a broad pattern, yes.
But you mentioned earlier that there's some bipartisan concern about these actions. Not everyone is on board with these cuts.
That's right. It's important to note it's not a monolithic view. For example, Senator Susan Collins, a Republican, has publicly voiced significant objections to some of these proposed cuts, including the elimination of LIHEAP. She emphasized that ultimately Congress controls government spending, implying these proposals might face resistance.
So there is some pushback, even from within the Republican Party.
Yes, indicating that support for some of these efficiency programs, particularly those like LIHEAP that directly help constituents, does cross party lines to some extent.
So to summarize, we could be facing a future without that familiar Energy Star label, which would make it more challenging and potentially more expensive for consumers like you to choose energy-efficient products.
Definitely more challenging, potentially more expensive both upfront and long term.
And this is occurring within a broader context of dismantling energy efficiency efforts impacting appliances, homes, support for low-income families, and even federal buildings.
That's a concise and, frankly, concerning overview of the situation. The potential ramifications touch consumers' finances, environmental protection efforts, and even discussions around our nation's energy independence.
It truly prompts you, the listener, to consider the long-term consequences. You know, what happens when we prioritize deregulation over tested efficiency programs? What will a world without trusted energy efficiency standards really look like down the road?
How will it affect our energy bills, our grid stability, and the environment in the years to come? It's definitely something to ponder.
Indeed. It raises a fundamental question about the true costs and benefits of these kinds of policy shifts beyond the immediate political rhetoric.
Absolutely.
For more insights into how weather, climate, and energy-related events impact our lives, be sure to follow meteorologist Rob Jones. You can find him on Instagram at meteorologist, that's one word.
Also on TikTok at TV Meteorologist.
And on YouTube, follow Rob Jones Hurricane, again, all one word, where you can also find the Meteorology Matters podcast playlist with our other deep dives. Thanks for joining us today.